Welcome, Henrika.
Thank you so much, Chido, for a lovely introduction. I'm going to start off by asking one of the buzz phrases of 2020. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Great.
Yes, we can.
Great. So I've already been introduced, but maybe just to share a bit about myself. You've heard my name already. I love travel. I love people. I love life, and I love my job. A lot of people get shocked when I say I love my job, because a lot of people are stuck in jobs they don't like. So hopefully during today's session, I'll be able to inspire you to love your job too, by doing something different. And what that something is including data in the current work that you already do. I'm also passionate about training and mentorship, particularly in our Zimbabwean and African context, where we don't have much career guidance. When I studied my maths degree, I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I had no idea there was something called data analytics or data science. I learned that later on in life. So I think there's a need for that in our context, and I'm very passionate about that. And so I go around to schools and different corporates as well, simplifying data. Sometimes people get scared off by the terms data, artificial intelligence, data science, but my aim really is to show you how simple it can be, particularly if you include it in something you're already doing that you love. So that's me by way of introduction. In terms of today's agenda, sorry, if I can just give me a moment. All right. In terms of today's agenda, we're going to cover 4 things. I've named my talk Data, Decisions, and Disruption. And we're going to cover those in the reverse order. So we're first going to look at the disruption part. Then we're going to look at data and decisions. Then we're going to look at a couple of data stories, and you'll know what that is by the end. And lastly, you're going to have the privilege of having a day in the life of myself as a data analyst. Some people wonder, what is it that you actually do on a day-to-day basis? And you'll have the honor of actually seeing a bit of that. Okay, so without wasting any more of your time, covering the disruption aspect. I'm speaking to people who are already in the IT world, so I don't mean to preach to the choir. I'm sure you know that we are currently in the 4th industrial revolution, where thinking digital and thinking data is so important. And the first point I have there is think back to just 5, 10, 15 years ago, depending on your age, the type of phone you used, how you did your work. I can actually think back and see the differences from then until now. So if you think back, you can actually see indeed that the world is changing and we are moving and we are in the 4th industrial revolution. Secondly, the careers we have now, the future of careers is different. And if you as a professional in whatever way you are working are not making yourself future ready, you will become redundant. You will eventually find that perhaps you're not needed in your job because tech can do what you can do. So why not future-proof yourself and your career by actually incorporating tech, and in my case, particularly data, in how you do your work, so that you set yourself apart from all the other professionals who have your job. Thirdly, if we look at how self-service is growing, just next door, if you go to OR Tambo Airport, you are actually able to punch in something in a machine and you've already checked in without seeing a human face or without speaking to a human face. We have vending machines. I think we're still behind as Zimbabwe, but slowly we will catch up. And so it's important for you as well to be ready for these types of things. And these are all driven by data. Fourthly, if we look at artificial intelligence, you are now able to say, okay, Google, switch on my Bluetooth. and your Bluetooth is on just because you've spoken to Google. We have robotics, we have drones that are delivering different things, particularly in the agriculture sector. You know, we have drones that are working when we have natural disasters. We have drones that are scoping the level of damage in those areas. And so we are fast moving in these technological advancements. And again, I say, if you are not advancing yourself, you will be left behind. Another big one is big data. A lot of people use the word big data without knowing what it actually means. Big data basically refers to not only data that is big in volume, but also the velocity in which it comes. And so if you and your organization are not moving towards using big data tools, again, you will be left behind. We see everything in the cloud nowadays. I was looking at my Gmail, just my Gmail email address, and there are pictures in there from about 5 years ago. And I was like, wow, Google really holds my life. If I need an old picture, it's there. And then there's the introduction of 5G, which is coming, where our internet, our mobile internet is going to be so quick. Someone said we might actually get to a stage where you bounce your network from phone to phone. So you won't even need network infrastructure anymore. You literally can get mobile internet from bouncing off of someone's phone. And then if we look at business powerhouses these days, our LinkedIn, our YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, I could go on. They are really data-driven. If you look at your YouTube history, for example, it recommends that, okay, you've been watching a lot of this channel. Here's a similar video to what you've watched. Would you like to watch it? That is data-driven. They're basically taking your data, what you've used, and suggesting things based on that. So I think it's pretty clear and pretty obvious that disruption is here. I think someone needs to mute their mic. Okay. All right, so that's in terms of disruption. Now getting to decisions, where do decisions come in? And at this stage, I would like to know what industry you are in. So if you have internet right now, kindly go to www.menti.com, punch in that code and enter what industry you are in. So I'll give a couple of minutes for that. Okay. So kindly go to www.menti.com if you're able to. Use the code that's there, 9549744, and tell us what industry you're in. So I'll just give a couple of seconds for this exercise for those who are able to do it. Okay, so far we have IT security, IT finance leading, a lot of others. We've got people in audit. We've got a lot of people in IT security, IT and audit, IT finance. Okay, so this is just to show the different, industries we have represented here. And why am I looking for this? I'm basically, first of all, trying to show you that data speaks. So I'm sure you find this really informative to see who's in the audience. That's point number one. Point number two is that, let me just go back to my slides. Point number two is that no matter what industry you are in, there is a use for data. And I'm sure you can testify that you come across data in your job, whether you use it or not, it's there. And so decisions are being driven by data. And if you want to really excel in your profession, why not incorporate data into particularly your decision making? I like the quote that's there that says, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. And so maybe right now you find your job boring or it's not really what you wanted to do. But I would like to challenge you a little bit and say, try and put data into it and that might change. How, you may ask? Okay, so I've put here, if someone asked you, let's say you are a small business or an entrepreneur, and someone is asking about your performance in the last year, you could write it this way if we read the paragraph there. It says, from January 2020 to date, we've managed to service 50 clients, almost half of whom are in the food industry. This is a slight decline, about 17%, from the 56 clients we served in 2019. Please find attached a detailed breakdown by industry. You could write this and submit it to your stakeholders, to a boss, whoever it is. But if you look on the other side there, this is exactly the same information, but this time you're letting your data speak. You're not writing a full paragraph. You're basically saying you had 50 clients in 2020. Previous year, you had 56 clients, and this is a 17% drop. Then you have a graph there showing which industries these clients were from. And you can easily see that your manufacturing clients increased greatly compared to the last year. Your clients from the food industry were roughly the same, and your clients from the clothing industry decreased from the previous year. What this does, it then allows you in your decision making to say, okay, why did I have less clients from the clothing industry this year than I did last year? What is it that I did differently? And you can then make a decision based on this data. So my submission to you is, in your work, try putting a bit of changes in how you present a report or certain information instead of this paragraph. Why not use data presented this way? Because visually, our minds will remember that big number 50, such that even when I leave this presentation and close my eyes, that 50 is still in my mind because it's a number that highlights it there. So just to show you how you can improve your decision making using data. And then getting into data stories. Again, I love quotes, and there's a quote there that says, if you torture the data long enough, it will confess to anything. This is basically to say that numbers don't lie. And if you really, dig deeper into what figures are telling you, you will find the answer. The reason I'm calling this a data story is because I have a bit of a story. And I once worked with an executive who was such a numbers person. He was not a data analyst like I was, but he knew his numbers much better than I did. And he would show graphs like this on a daily basis. And he would ask the staff, why is it that on Wednesday, product A had lower sales than product B? And you would really have to have an answer for everything you were doing, because he would literally look at this graph and sit there for 5 minutes and interrogate the graph until you tell him. And sometimes he would actually know you are lying. For example, if you say something that you wouldn't have, if you change a story, you say something the previous week and you change the story, you would open the graph and show you that actually either you changed the figures or there's something amiss because the graph you showed last week has something different. So that way of thinking really helped me see how he was such a revenue driver in the business, and he simply did that by using data. And so I even called him the numbers necromancer. He had a way, like a magic way with numbers. And so whether you're an executive in a corporation or a business owner, an entrepreneur, whatever you are, a lawyer, an accountant, you can use data to actually enhance your decision making wherever you are. My second story is about the nerdy everydayer. And this, in this case, happens to be myself. So I started writing some LinkedIn articles, and I then started analyzing which articles were getting the most views. So if you can see the line in pink there, this article really got a lot of views. And what this helped me do by analyzing this, it helped me see that, okay, if I write articles with this content, it has way more views than all my other content in my other articles. So I then start changing my articles to suit the high views that I'm getting. And then there's a quote there that says, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. You can try and estimate something and say, oh, I think we had 5 clients. But when you actually note it down, for example, in an Excel sheet even, you then notice that actually it wasn't 5, it was 10. So numbers don't lie. And without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So hopefully the way I do things will sort of, inspire you to do the same. People laugh at me because I have an Excel sheet for everything. But it really helps me make data-driven decisions, and hopefully you could do the same. Okay, moving into what is it that I actually do as a data analyst for Cassava Smart Tech. I'll give a disclaimer here before you think I'm showing you Cassava Smart Tech's data. I have edited the figures, and this is not a true reflection, but just for you to see the kind of data I look at. So in my work, I will open a table like this in the morning to check our transactions, our subscribers, and the revenue that was brought in. I will extract this table and then create a graph that will visually show me, okay, which were the low days. I can see Sunday has low sales, low subscribers. That's self-explanatory because it's a weekend. But what if I have low days on Tuesday, for example? It then makes me ask, okay, what happened on Tuesday that the sales were much lower than the Monday? And then you can then interrogate the data further and help management make better decisions because of this. I'll then look at the same data in a different way. So you use different types of graphs because this will show you how the different metrics compare with each other on a day-to-day basis. And then what I wanted us to do is to code a little with SQL. So those of you who haven't extracted data before, we use a tool called SQL. Most people do. There are different tools, but this is one of the popular ones. So what SQL does is it allows you to use code that will help you extract data from a system in a business. So we use statements like select, which means you are selecting or choosing your data. Where you're putting a condition. If, that's also a condition. From is which table you want the data from. And is self-explanatory if you're picking something and something else. So for example, if I say select all, I mean I want to select all the data from table. So this table will have a name. Let's say it's called transactions, but in this case it's called table. So you write the code from table. Where day equals Saturday. So this means I want to extract all these columns from this table, but only where the day is Saturday. So these 3 lines of code will then return this table for you. And as a data analyst, this is how you basically wrangle with your data when you're extracting it, putting in different conditions to extract only the data you want, because the business has large amounts of data, so you can't extract all of it. You set conditions that filter and help you extract only what you want. So that's SQL. I'm sure many of you know it if you're in the IT industry, but I just decided to do this for those who might not know what a data analyst does. So this is the process of data extraction. And then I also put in a bit of code in Python because Python is such a popular tool these days. And so basically those graphs I showed you earlier, you can actually then extract them in Python. So this is what your tables would look like if you are using Python code. So we use keywords like import. Import means you're basically bringing in the libraries you want to use that will help you perform the operations you need. If you want, for example, your Python script to read an Excel file, we use pd.read Excel, and then you put your name of your table and it will bring out the Excel there. Head means you're showing the first few rows of your data. Describe means you want to see a summary of your data. What is the average? What is the minimum? What is the maximum I have for each of my columns? So this was just a quick snippet for those who are considering venturing into Python. It sometimes may sound complicated if you're new to it, but once you get started, it's really, really simple. So I personally use Python. Other people use one called R, but it's really up to you. And so if you had never done this before, you can give yourself a hand because that was your first data analytics task. And that's basically what I do on a day-to-day basis in my job. Okay, and then how do you datacate yourself? Basically, how do you become this person who is a lawyer who wants to include data in their decisions, or a risk manager, for example, who wants to include data in their decisions? I keep it really simple. Some people may think of complicated things, but the tools that have helped me are LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, there are various data groups where you can actually ask a question, I'm stuck on this, and you get a response, or you can find articles on how to even get started from scratch on data decision making. YouTube, I literally taught myself about more than 60% of my data analytics work by just going onto YouTube and saying, how do I do so and so and so? There's usually a YouTube tutorial for you there. So it's that simple, LinkedIn and YouTube. And then I'd also recommend IBM Digital Nation, which has a lot of courses on artificial intelligence and data science. And then if you are really looking into doing some data courses, you can have a look at these reputable e-learning platforms, Coursera, Udemy, Dataflare, and DataCamp. And then lastly, I just put a list of tools. What are the tools I use when making data-driven decisions? It can be as simple as just Excel. If you haven't started yet, Excel is perfect for starting. Then you have your visualization tools, which help you create pretty graphs or pictures that tell the story within your data. We have Power BI, Tableau, ClickSense. You can look these up later if you haven't used them already. And then Python and R for your programming, which I explained earlier. And lastly, SQL for your data extraction. So if you're looking into datacating yourself in your profession, this is where I would recommend for you to start. If you forget anything else I said today, remember these three things. The first is that data speaks. The second is stories are just data with a soul. So when you are telling a story, it's basically information you got from somewhere. So that's pretty much data, but with a soul. So you can actually then apply this in your profession. How can you use data to tell stories that you want to tell for better decision making? And lastly, data makes you better at whatever you are already doing. So like I said, whatever you are in already, put data in it and you will shine above all your other colleagues because you will now be a data-driven risk manager or a data-driven IT guy. Whatever you are, you will be data-driven, and that really sets you apart and makes you more efficient and helps you make better decisions. So that is what I had for you today, and I hope it was helpful. There's still so much I could have spoken about, but like I said, I like to start simple, and if you'd like to learn more, feel free to engage with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Drop me an email and we can chat. So thank you.